I'm going to read a little excerpt from an amazing book called In Tune with the World, A Theory of Festivity. This is by the German Thomist, Josef Pieper, first written in 1963 or published in 1963 in Germany. This translation is published in 1999 by St. Augustine Press. This is the chapters don't have titles. This is from chapter 5, and it's a little excerpt on Sunday and Easter. And I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. The seventh day commemorates not only the completion of the divine work, but also the divine ascent to creation. It was on the seventh day that the prodigious words were spoken that everything was very good. We cannot conceive a more radical, a deeper lying justification of the essential goodness of all reality than this, that God himself, in bringing things into being, affirms and loves these very same things, all of them without exception. And to man also, insofar as he accepts it, this is the uttermost legitimation. Perhaps I should also say the ultimate encouragement, which alone is unassailable, likewise to find the things of the world good, in spite of everything. And therefore it is also legitimation and encouragement to celebrate festivals festively. During the great autumn festivals in Bengal, I asked quite a few persons whether they could tell me the reason for their present festive joy. The answer of one Orthodox Hindu ran, "It is the joy of being a creature whom God has created out of joy." But this is the very thing, the gift of being created, which is celebrated on Sunday, says Thomas Aquinas. This beneficium creationis, he says, is the first and foremost of all divine gifts. Thus he portrays Sunday as the model of all festive celebration. On that day we particularly celebrate what underlies all other times of festivity, ascent to creation. At the same time, however, the seventh day has always been conceived as a symbol pointing ahead, a prefiguring of the last and foremost divine gift, the eternal peace of God coming to all beings. Sunday is dedicated to this hope. The day itself becomes an image of the coming age, imago venturi saeculi. Thus the holiday and day of worship for Christendom, recurring every week, is meant to serve both to recall the beginning of creation and to herald future bliss. And in this summoning before the soul's vision both the beginning and the end of time, it throws open that wide, that infinite horizon which the great festivals must have for their full celebration. Plainly, it is an extraordinary demand that such an interpretation of Sunday makes upon the average man. Some may call it an excessive demand, although it is scarcely more challenging than the task of meeting the demands of being human. At any rate, this precise interpretation, which does not draw any romantic veil over the measurements of reality, shows men one clearly drawn potentiality of their psychic life. And perhaps the average man, some time when he is thrown back upon his last resources, will be forced to recognize this potentiality as his own. And with that recognition will come, perhaps, a great sense of freedom and relief. Nevertheless, this Lord's Day, Dies Dominica, is not a specifically Christian holiday insofar as it fulfills the Old Testament Sabbath, the seventh day. What makes Sunday Christian is its relation to Christ, its celebration of God's incarnation, which reached its full fruit in revelation in the resurrection of the Lord. The Christian Sunday is an emanation of Easter. Easter itself, although it celebrates a historical event, could never be a real festival, let alone the festival of the Church, if it were not something more than and different from a mere Memorial Day. What is in truth involved is a mysterious contemporizing of this event, which evokes an incomparably more real present than memory ever can. Although it is also true that, as C.S. Lewis says, a pleasure is full grown only when it is remembered. What is more, the reason and occasion for this festival is that in Christ's resurrection, something began by which man's life ever since, and today and for all the future, received that incomprehensible exaltation that the language of theology calls grace and new life. And therefore, in the Christian celebration of Easter, quite particularly, an affirmation of the whole of existence is experienced and celebrated. No more rightful, more comprehensive, and fundamental an affirmation can be conceived. The gift of having been created, the promise of perfect bliss, the communication of divine vitality through incarnation and resurrection. All these are things, we might say, which determine human life every hour of every day, if the Christians are right. Why then are they celebrated only now and again, only every seventh day, or only on the rare great feast days? As we see, once again, the theme of everlasting festival comes into view. In point of fact, festivals could not be celebrated as special, rare, and exceptional days, and celebrated spontaneously, if the festive occasion did not exist continually and without cessation, and were not so experienced as the receiving of something beloved. If any specific day is to be singled out from the rest and celebrated as a festival, this can only be done as the manifestation of a perpetual, though hidden, festivity. This idea is not limited to the Christian realm, although in that realm we find it expressed with particular stress. Quote, we spend our whole lives like a feast day, or, quote, we have unending holiday, or ours is an eternal festival. In domo Dei festivitas sempiterna est. In the house of God, the festival is eternal, and so on. Pythagoras, too, called man's life a panegyris, a festival. And in Plato's great late dialogue, Laws, when the talk turns to the festivals to be celebrated in the ideal republic, and the question is raised of how many there will be, the Athenian, who is Socrates, answers, quote, there should be no less than 365 of them, so that it will be possible to sacrifice to one of the gods every day. To which one modern German edition of Plato makes the comment that this is a pretty conceit. The same basic conception is also to be found in ancient Rome. One of the highest priests, the Flamen Dialis, was spoken of as quotidiae feriatis, one who celebrated festivals every single day. Even now, however little it may seem so on the surface, the latent presence of the everlasting festival constitutes one of the basic elements of these present times also. And there I stop in this short excerpt of chapter 5 of In Tune with the World, A Theory of Festivity by Josef Pieper. Maybe I'll just read one more time one of those great sentences. If any specific day is to be singled out from the rest and celebrated as a festival, this can only be done as the manifestation of a perpetual, though hidden festivity.